All right, today we're diving into a theory that completely flips the script on one of history's most infamous villains. It's a story that weaves together ancient Egypt, sacred scripture, and a prophesied future. This is what's called the Pharaoh Code.
So let's just jump right in with a huge question. We all know the story, right? Moses parts the Red Sea, the Israelites make it across, and Pharaoh's entire army gets wiped out by the waves. But what if that wasn't the end of the story for Pharaoh himself? What if he made it out?
You see, the theory we're looking at today really builds its foundation on this idea. It argues that Pharaoh wasn't just some power-hungry tyrant. No, he was given signs. And what that means here is deep, profound scientific and esoteric knowledge. But he chose to cut himself off from the divine source of that knowledge. And that single choice, well, that's the key to everything that follows. And that brings us to this massive paradox. I mean, think about it. Why would a man seeing two literal walls of water being held up on either side of him, a miracle that breaks every known law of physics, why would he charge straight in? Was that just pure arrogance? Or was it something else entirely? This is where the whole story gets turned on its head. Instead of a foolish, angry king, the source paints a picture of a man of science, a man whose incredible knowledge, maybe of physics or some other forces we don't understand, actually convinced him that he could outsmart the miracle he was witnessing. So his final act wasn't out of ignorance. It was a calculated risk based on corrupted knowledge. So how in the world could someone have that kind of knowledge? Well, according to this theory, the blueprint for it has been hiding in plain sight this whole time. It's a concept the source calls the pyramidal inscription science. Okay, let's break this down because it's a huge idea. The theory is that the Islamic holy book, the Qur'an, isn't just a spiritual text. It's also a scientific one. To be specific, it claims that the structure of its first 100 chapters, or surahs, creates a precise mathematical map of the Great Pyramid of Giza. And what's wild is how methodical it is. It's not just a vague idea. The theory lays out a 19 by 19 grid, like a chessboard, to represent the pyramid's base. Then, it maps those 100 chapters onto that grid in a very specific way, essentially building a 3D model. And the result is that certain chapters of the Qur'an land on spots that line up perfectly with the known, and maybe even the unknown, chambers inside the real pyramid. So this isn't just some abstract overlay. The source uses this map to do something pretty incredible, to actually name the rooms inside the pyramid, and to give each one a purpose that's tied directly to the scripture itself. Just look at these examples. You've got the chapter called the Bee, or An-Nal, which lines up with a specific gate. The chapter The Night Journey, Al-Isra, marks another entrance. And Maryam, the chapter of Mary, corresponds to a particular room. All of a sudden, the pyramid isn't just a pile of stones. It's a physical text you can walk through. Now here's the kicker, and this is so important. These aren't just symbolic names. The theory claims these rooms were built to be functional, like giant resonant chambers. And by reciting the verses from the corresponding chapter inside the correct room, you could actually harness specific energies for some really advanced purposes, maybe even bending the rules of space and time. This is the kind of technology pharaohs supposedly understood and misused. And all of this incredible knowledge, this hidden power, it's all building up to the theory's most shocking claim. It connects ancient Egypt to a prophesied end-times figure of immense deception. In Islamic tradition, he is known as the Dajjal, a figure that's often compared to the Antichrist. Everything, and I mean everything, hinges on this one verse from the Qur'an. It's addressed directly to Pharaoh, right in the moment he's drowning, and the source zooms in on one critical phrase: "We will save you in body, not your memory, not your legacy, your physical body." And the interpretation here is as radical and literal as it gets. It means Pharaoh didn't die. His body was physically saved from the water, preserved and kept alive. Why? To become what the verse calls a sign for everyone who came after him, a great and very long-lasting trial. So let's connect the dots here, just like the source does. On one hand, you have Pharaoh. He's called a sign, he had all this scientific knowledge, and he's even described with a term that this theory links directly to the pyramids. On the other hand, you have the Dajjal. He's described as the ultimate trial, and his power is also based on a kind of dazzling, deceptive science. So when you lay it all out like that, the conclusion, at least within this framework, is unavoidable. The sign, the trial, the master of corrupted science, they're one and the same person. Pharaoh, saved from the Red Sea, is the very same figure who would later become known as the Dajjal. Okay, so if he survived, then what? Where did he go? According to this theory, after he was saved from the sea, stripped of his kingdom, his army, everything, he followed the Israelites. And there, he shows up again as that mysterious figure from the Qur'an known as the Samiri. You know, the guy who tempts the Israelites to worship the golden calf using his special knowledge. The source argues Samiri isn't even a name, it's a title, the Sumerian. His entire existence is just one long game of deception. So, if this great trial is really a deception based on advanced science and forbidden knowledge, how do you possibly fight back? Well, the theory argues that the answer, the ultimate weapon, lies in the very same text that exposed the problem in the first place. The theory points us to this verse. It calls for a great striving, a jihad kabir, using it, which is understood to mean the Qur'an itself. But here's the twist. This isn't a call for a physical battle. It's talking about something else entirely. And here's the big takeaway. You don't fight a war of knowledge with swords. You fight it with better knowledge. To stand against a power built on dazzling but ultimately fake science, you need a higher, divine science. The weapon isn't a physical object. It's the understanding you can unlock from the scripture itself, the very science of that pyramidal code. And so that leaves us with this final, really provocative thought. This whole theory suggests that the answers to some of our oldest mysteries, and maybe even the tools to get through future challenges, aren't buried in the sand somewhere. They're encoded in a text, just waiting. It proposes that the ultimate power isn't about weapons at all, but about comprehension. And that maybe, just maybe, the greatest secrets are simply waiting for a new way of